We also had significant fighting this week along the Netzarim corridor. So we could take a look at that map here. Again, thanks, Maxwell, for this map. We have the Nablus roundabout shown there. This is the site of this complex operation that was carried out this weekend as well. You can see the proximity of the pier and where Nablus roundabout is. That is the same roundabout where those infamous massacres of the aid massacres, like the Flower massacre back in February, that killed hundreds of people waiting to try to get aid, and the Israelis massacred them. That's the same roundabout. So this roundabout is being used again. So that this map shows Netzarim corridor. You can see the space that Netzarim corridor takes up, and you see where the pier is in relation to the corridor. And if we look at number 9 here, the Americans pulled their pier up again. So the pier that was only in place for a few days and very suspiciously surrounding the massacre in Nusrat, which made people believe that the pier was being used during that massacre, because the pier was reattached that day, and not even 2 weeks later, they're removing the pier again. You can see on the right of this image, the pier has been removed. It's a temporary pier, and it always was framed that way, as a temporary pier. But now we really see how temporary it is, because we saw in the storm a few weeks ago, beached it onto the beach in southern Israel, and the American Army transportation brigade that's in charge of the pier went to go and collect the pieces of the pier that had floated away, and their vessels themselves were beached on the beach, and it gave images that the American Army that didn't make them look very good. And so this time they're now taking up the pier apparently as a preventative measure for a storm that is upcoming. So they have removed the pier again, and there's talk today from CENTCOM that the operation might actually be shorter than they planned on. This is just a $250 million theater that's just a distraction from what should be happening, is the opening of the land corridors that could easily alleviate the famine situation in Gaza. There's no need for a $250 million. It was originally a $325 million operation. They scaled it back. They said it's only actually a $250 million operation now. But this was always just a sideshow to distract from what is the solution to the situation, which is the end of the siege on Gaza and the allowance through the land corridors that already exist, through the land crossings that already exist, to get aid in. This pier was promised, if we remember previous reports, I told you that CENTCOM promised that there would be 150 trucks a day through this pier, which again is still a fraction of a single land crossing, and there's half a dozen land crossings. But the CENTCOM Central Command, United States Central Command, promised that it was going to be 150 trucks a day. It never got to more than 7 trucks in a day. And so just wanted to show you that. Before I show you this, which is number 10, this is the Nablus roundabout ambush. And so Qassam does have video of this, and they're showing us here. This is a sizzle reel showing you this operation. I'll detail the operation when it goes, but here you can say this is Nablus roundabout ambush. Qassam is telling us, and here they're showing us the footage. So you can see these soldiers. These are on. This is where Netzarim corridor is. You can see the berms, the sand berms that they've put up, but you see that Qassam has eyes all along this coastal road. And we see them digging and planting the explosives into the sand, which is something that when the Israelis tear up the road, they actually make it easier for this kind of operation to take place. The fighter here is pointing out that this is the Nablus roundabout, which is a well-known roundabout. He's saying that there. We've taken the audio out, and we can see the fighter there with mortars. He's got 120 millimeter mortars that he's ready to fire. And we can see the tanks moving along the corridor here. You can see Qassam has eyes all along this corridor. You can see there the minefield is detonated. There was at least one armored vehicle blown up in this. There was admitted 2 killed and 2 severely wounded. We can see the fighters following up this complex operation by firing mortars on the scene of the attack, but not on the rescue again, which we're going to see again. These are the mortar rounds landing. We're going to see again, this is a smoke screen from the Israeli armored vehicles providing concealment for their forces. But you can see that 𝐓𝐿 has eyes on all of these vehicles showing up. The Humvees showing up, the tank showing up. You can see the fighter, the Israeli soldiers here, well within range of an Al-Ghul. They look like they're even possibly in range of a Yassin, but they're definitely within sniper range here, and they're not being targeted. The mortars are not being fired at the evacuation of these injured troops. And you can see here, you can see stretchers here. You can see the full evacuation. Here we see the helicopter land, throwing a flare to try to throw off the surface-to-air missiles, the man-portable surface-to-air missiles that the Palestinians have. Again, those aren't being fired at these helicopters on the ground. That helicopter is well within sniper range, not being fired at. Again, we've been seeing this all throughout the war, that it's clear that the 𝐓𝐿 brigades are not targeting these medevacs on principle. And this is a quote from Abu Ubaidah that says, "We will continue to strike painful blows against the enemy wherever they may be." And on the day of this attack, Abu Ubaidah gave a text message. We can just loop through that again tomorrow and let people see that operation again. Abu Ubaidah said on the day of the operation, "Our complex and qualitative operation today is a new confirmation of the enemy's failure in the face of our resistance and painful blows to his army, and we will have more. We will continue to strike painful blows against the enemy wherever they may be." And we've seen this, these eyes on 𝐓𝐿 eyes on this waterfront and on the coastal road multiple times, because Al Jazeera has shown war crimes footage of civilians being killed along this road. It is 𝐓𝐿 surveillance footage, 𝐓𝐿 giving up military positions to show war crimes by the Israelis that will be what are shown, and what will be used at The Hague is the actual intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance of the resistance fighters, videotaping the massacre, recording the massacre of civilians. We saw just a week and a half or so ago footage that was released that was clearly from 𝐓𝐿, that Al Jazeera played, of civilians walking along the coastal road trying to get back to their homes in the north and being shot by the Israelis and then being buried by bulldozers. That is the area that we're looking at here. So the resistance has eyes all along this area that the Israelis believe is part of the Netzarim corridor that they believe they are safe in. And this operation shows that that is not the case. Along the Netzarim corridor, there's been, of course, dozens of operations across this corridor since the Israelis, I mean, hundreds of operations since the Israelis started to claim this corridor in November and December. We could see, again, that Netzarim corridor is a logical place for the Israelis to take. This goes back to Ariel Sharon's 5-finger plan, which was to cut the Gaza Strip into fingers using the settlements at the time to make more manageable areas for the military to control. So Netzarim corridor is always one of those corridors. So the fact that the Israelis took the corridor in this war is not surprising. There's a long history in Netzarim corridor, and we call it Netzarim corridor because it is an Israeli military position. So we use the Israeli name for it. This is along Street Number 10 for the Palestinians, called Street Number 10, and Nablus roundabout is a critical junction for people in Gaza. Everybody knows the area. It's and this is what the Israelis have used this corridor as a way of attacking into the center of the Gaza Strip, into the heart of Gaza City, to the north, and into the middle camps in the south, as we saw them do with the Nuseirat massacre a couple of weeks ago, where it allows their fighters to, rather than for their soldiers to use the corridor to invade the center of Gaza and not have to move in from the outsides. But we can see here in this video, this pretty spectacular ambush, that the Netzarim corridor is not safe for the Israelis, and this will continue to happen as long as the Israelis are in this corridor. So that's the Nabulsi roundabout ambush, a qualitative operation that happened this weekend as well. So serious losses for the Israelis this week, losses that they had to admit to because they were so well known, both the number in Rafah that were lost and the fact that there's this video clearly showing the entire operation in the Nabulsi roundabout. So, but there's more operations in the Netzarim corridor this week. Let's take a look at number 11. This is 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐜 Islamic Jihad's armed wing. This is targeting the 99th Division of the IDF in the Netzarim corridor. Again, we see the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐿 calls it the 𝐓𝐡𝐞. It's a Said Iranian 50 cal sniper rifle, anti-materiel rifle. And we see, again, the soldiers walking through this area, believing that they're in the clear. They're actually running through the area, so they're at least more aware now than they had previously been that they're targets in this corridor. Because I've been showing on this program every single week operations in the Netzarim corridor. These are not unique operations. We've been watching sniper operations constantly along this corridor here. And so if we go to number 12 here, because there's also rocket artillery fire. This is the Qassam brigades in the Netzarim corridor. This is their Rajam 114 millimeter rocket artillery. This is a Qassam built weapon. There is no other Rajam 114 millimeter rocket artillery in the world. Many of Qassam's weapons are copies, are clones of already existing weapons, but this 114 millimeter round is a Qassam invention, and this is the weapons. We're seeing them here use improvised launchers. We saw them use the actual launchers on October 7th, which is one of the ways that they were able to launch as many rockets on the morning of October 7th as they did, was because of this system here that we're seeing. And we can see the fighter using an angle finder. They're not just putting that on the side of the hill. They're measuring, they're using an angle finder to get the proper trajectory of the weapon. You can see him using the rocks here and behind to stabilize. So it looks slapdash, maybe what you're looking at here, but it's actually not. And these improvised launchers actually vex the counter battery fire that might come after the launch, which is something that the Israelis talked about in the 2006 war as well, because Hizballah used improvised launchers in that war too. So we see the fighter here. And in this video, there's audio in this video that you can see on my Twitter as well. The fighter is giving salutes to his people, and we can see there, this is their rocket launcher controller, their controller, where they set the time and set the launch time for each individual rocket. And so these rockets that we're seeing here, the Israelis say this is among the 14,000 rockets and mortars fired on Israel since October 7th. And just to give you a sense, Palestinian fighters from 2001, when the rocket program first got off the ground, pardon the pun, when it first begun in 2001, from 2001 to October 7th to 2023, there was 8,000 rockets fired from Gaza. In this war alone, there's 14,000 rockets, and there's 5,000 more from Lebanon. So 19,000 rockets on the Israelis during this operation. And so we can see just the qualitative increase and quantitative increase. We saw the qualitative operations, and we see here with the rocket systems, still 9 months into this war, quantitatively able to still continue the fight in ways that don't appear to show degrading. These weapons look like they have been well stored. The fuses are attached. on site here. And so again, even though we're looking for signs all the time, there doesn't appear to be any sign of the degrading of the rocket capability, which is again something that Israel is constantly saying, that they're fighting in Gaza to stop the rocket fire, because the Israeli civilians that live in the Gaza envelope have been very clear that they're not moving back to their Gaza envelope until this rocket fire is suppressed. And there is no indication that that these rocket launches are being suppressed. And we show it every week on the show, but that's just one more example of it here on Netzarim corridor. So that is in the Netzarim corridor. So that's the Gaza resistance report. We've gone from Rafah to the Netzarim corridor.
Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit like, leave a comment. These engagements help us with the YouTube algorithm, and it helps us to get around Silicon Valley censorship as much as possible. It does make a difference. You can also support our journalism by going to electronicintifada.net and clicking on donate now. Thank you.